I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse.
The more you talk, the harder I want to hit you.
I'm happy because of being here today. Fuck you.
Come on, you want me to drive? No. You're supposed to be suicidal, remember? I'll
Anybody
drive.
a drive?
Let's get in the car.
Fucking shit. Fuck me in the fucking ass. Fuck you, you fucking stupid cunt.
Hey everyone, it's Don G. Corleone here, and I'm back with a brand new movie review. And this movie review is going to be for none other than last year's, a film that was dumped to Apple TV Plus, but Plane had this among the free movies they had on the plane, so I took the opportunity to watch this one. And it's going to be for none other than The Lost Bus, directed by Paul Greengrass, who has directed films like the Bourne movies, United 93, and Captain Phillips. Has directed another true story film, this film. And this is based off a 2018 wildfire in Paradise, California. And it was one of the deadliest wildfires yet. So, the plot of this film is that these 22 elementary school kids are stranded at their school because technically it was about to be 23, but one family managed to get that one. And so it's 22, and the rest of their families can't get them because the fires have now spread, made everything inaccessible. So, one school bus driver, along with the kids' school teacher, has to drive the kids and out to safety as the wildfire rages around them. So, as for my reaction, I was on the plane. This was one of the movies they had. I took the opportunity to finally watch it, and how was it? So, I like Paul Greengrass as a director, like with the Bourne movies, United 93 and Captain Phillips. So, how was this? It was honestly alright. This review is going to be a little slow because this was hard and intense to sit through on the plane, but it was good. Probably one of my top favorites of last year. And I feel, and that's the other thing, I like Matthew McConaughey as an actor in films like Dazed and Confused, and I also really liked him in Interstellar. So I do like Matthew McConaughey as an actor, and it's probably his best film since Interstellar. And this is probably America Ferrera's best live-action performance. Yes, I find this performance way better than the one in Barbie. And you know, I wish this movie got her nominated instead of that film. I wish she got nominated for this instead of Barbie. So how was this film made? So it was around June 2022 when Jamie Lee Curtis for Con Films and Jason Blum, were developing the film as producers. An adaptation of Lizzie Johnson's book Paradise, about a town's struggle to survive a wildfire. Then in January 2024, Paul Greengrass got attached and Matthew McConaughey was set to star, and Apple Inc. entered talks to distribute. And in February 2024, America Ferrera joined the cast, and Apple was confirmed to be distributing. Then in May 2024, Yoel Vasquez, Ashley Atkinson, and Spencer Watson joined the cast, and Matthew McConaughey's son stars in the film. But he auditioned and didn't use his last name. So, and Sherry McKay is actually also played by McConaughey's real-life mother. Then after the film was officially shot and completed, The Lost Bus would premiere at the Toronto National Film Festival on September 5th, 2025, and it would get a small limited theatrical release in the United States on September 19th, 2025. And then it streamed on Apple TV Plus on October 3rd. And you know what? I wish it didn't. I wish this actually went to theaters. It did not get dumped to streaming. This should not have been dumped to streaming. This should have been released in theaters for the public. Like, releasing it only on Apple TV Plus was honestly a big mistake. But critics gave The Lost Bus positive reviews. They praised Greengrass for the highly realistic visual effects and strong acting from America Matthew, though some reviewers thought it was predictable. And it was nominated for Best Visual Effects at the Academy Awards this year. Alright, so here are the good qualities in the story of The Lost Bus. So, what makes The Lost Bus an actually good film is director Paul Greengrass treats this story with respect. He doesn't put in annoying over-the-top characters. It's not cheesy or melodramatic. There's no plot twists. The score is minimalistic. It's a straightforward, plain, simple survival story. And that's the thing about Paul Greengrass. Whenever Paul Greengrass adapts a film based off a haunting tragedy, he does it with the most respect. Like United 93, that was based off one of the plane that was about to go crash the U.S. Capitol during 9/11, but it didn't. That was a plane that crashed. That was a plane that was going to go to the Capitol, but it failed to meet its target because the passengers fought back before it could hit the next target. And now I like World Trade Center better, but Paul Greengrass did a good job with this. With that film, he didn't cast big name celebrities. He casted a bunch of unknowns, and he made it as realistic as possible. That's the thing. Paul, whenever he directs films like this, he makes it realistic and actually pays respect to victims. Like, you can tell the guy does research with stuff like this. Here, and same with Captain Phillips, you know? He's not, like, and that's another thing. He's not afraid to even make them dark. He still makes them as haunting as possible as they were when they happened in real life. He doesn't sugarcoat anything. Like, that's one of the things that makes Paul Greengrass a pretty underrated director. So, pretty much that happens. And so, it's a simple survival story where 210 days, there's no rain, Earth is dry, and then strong winds happen, a hook attached to transmission fails, and there's a fire happens, and it spreads to towns of Concow and Paradise. Our bus driver lead character, Kevin, was our main character of the film, and it gives us enough backstory to make you root for the main character. His son's sick, he's on his way home, and emergency calls comes through to evacuate 22 kids, and so Kevin reluctantly has to volunteer because their parents can't come pick them up. There's no other way for them to. But what follows is a pretty full-throttle action suspense movie set during one of the deadliest wildfires in California. And the direction stands out for the pacing and atmospheric tone. It doesn't drag. It gives space for emotional depth. Like any of the scene, like usually scenes with whenever any of the kids get their scenes on the bus, where either they're scared or they're very exhausted from all the heat, or pretty much about one of them almost suffers heat stroke. Like there's several times throughout the film you actually think the kids could die in the film. Like none of them do, but there's times it almost feels like one of them is going to. Like there is no time to lighten up. Every time you think it lightens up, the situation gets worse. And the performances are authentic and layered, especially Matthew McConaughey's portrayal of quiet resilience under pressure, and the cinematography captures the isolation and beauty of the landscape, and the audience feels the tension and vulnerability of the survivors. And the effects of the wildfires in the film were amazing. The way they panned through the fire scenes was really good, even right there, and to the point where even the viewer could find themselves getting dizzy with the way it was filmed, but it's still cool looking. Like another thing, Paul Greengrass's technique is to kind of show rather than tell. So how do we start off? So takes place in November 2018, where these high winds and dry conditions lead to gas and electric transmission line failure, and it sparks a 2018 campfire right there, and firefighters can't contain the blaze from spreading to this wildfire, and then computer issues interfere. The fire chief, Ray Martin, is ordered to evacuate the area. And then we meet our main character, Kevin McKay, who's a school bus driver in Paradise, California, and he has to take care of both his disabled mother and a strange teenage son, Sean. And for what we see, his life is kind of, well, Because either this dog is not doing well, and his son has a bad relationship with him. And at the start of the film, you see they kind of argue, and pretty much then the son says some shitty things there, and then the morning the fire happens, and his boss chastises him for several delays returning his bus to the depot for maintenance. And then one day, instead of going to take the bus for maintenance, he gets this angry phone call from Sean's mom and his ex-wife. And he has to go back and bring Sean medication because he's not doing well. And now he's the only driver enough to... And also, he's now pretty much the only driver left to pick up 22 children stranded at the school in the Paris evacuation zone. And now these 22 don't really... We don't really see these 22 kids and America's character until really the middle of the film. The first half of the film is the wildfire basically starting, Kevin's home life, his work life, kind of just setting things up. And before like it gets to their parts, you actually do see the wildfire effects on several other people, where some have to leave their homes. One little girl ends up losing her plush, but her mom makes her leave it because they can't go back for any of their stuff. They need to get out of there because the wildfires are dangerous, so they can't go back for any personal stuff. Like, what sets Lost Bus apart is the human core, where it's not just about survival. It shows you, like, conscious fear, thin line between hope and despair. The script doesn't resort to melodrama, but it builds its power through subtle character moments and realistic dialogue. And the filming of the fire is very incredible. It brings you to the experience fully, provides new knowledge. Like, with wildfires, they can always quickly engulf forests and towns, and fire control efforts can sometimes fail, and you get to see what it's like for people and families in the path of destruction and those who have to live through it. You know, those who are affected by the areas where they happen. So I really like that. It shows the horrors some of these people go through, some of the near-death threatening injuries they get, or even the horror some of the firefighters themselves go through. Like, it does well in portraying all that stuff. And, like, this film proves that if with some who would watch the wildfire news on TV, they think they'd make it out there, no problem. No, this film proves that, actually, if they were in a situation, they would not make it out that easy. You know, like, no matter what you try to do. They're not easy to get out of. It doesn't actually job in portraying the reality and truth. The acting here was very superb. Like, Matthew McConaughey does well playing a character that goes through a difficult time in their life. Like, whatever, it's his home life, or having to deal with a family, like ex-wife and son that don't like him, take care of disabled mom, deal with like the dog not doing well, like, and pretty much working a job, driving kids to school, and then pretty much being the only one left to get them out of to get a few of them out of a deadly wildfire before things get really out of control. And it actually portrays all that very well. He looks around to see that they're encircled by engulfment, and you feel it, and you actually do feel like you're there on that bus. Even the opening scenes where a firefighter is hiding in the creek, like, there's times when even the situation gets so out of control, the firefighters realize there's not much left to do. It gives an entirely new perspective. It feels real. Like, you don't think they're going to make it out alive, even if you are familiar with the story that happened. There's times it feels like they might not get out, you know? So when they do get out, it feels earned. It feels very surprising that when they make it out. So their successful escape from the fire feels earned. It's not like forced in. They actually go through some realistic scenarios where it looks like they may not make it out. And at one point in the final act, they're about to accept their fates. Or at a point, or even have to get out of there before either they suffer heat stroke, or even more roads get blocked off. Like, the viewer's heart really goes out to all the characters in this film, and all those involved. Like, the firefighters in this film, the communities, the driver. the teacher and the kids, like the parents, like all of them you root for, and all of them you really feel the heartbreak for in the film. Like holy shit, were the kid scenes hard to watch on the bus. Like almost all of them. Like the kid actors did well playing the kids in the film. They were normal kids, and you actually can feel their fear they're going through, and feel all that stuff they're going through in this film, and you actually feel very bad for them right there, and you actually want them to get out. And there's immersive moments when the bus does arrive, but there's no way forward or going back, and like this was such a also jaw drop moment when it seems like things are going so smooth they might get out, but then you see the roads blocked off and there's people walking the opposite direction, telling them they're gonna try to take their chances, and they don't. And also they pretty much tells them that you don't want those kids to see what we saw back there, and overwhelmed. And you can feel Matthew McConaughey's facial expressions when overwhelmed by a sense of despair, trapped and powerless, waiting for some miracle stroke of luck But no, like the hopelessness that moment feels genuine and makes the Lost Bus remarkable is a balance between intensity and humanity. The suspense keeps you on the edge of your seat. You never loses sight of the heart of the story. You have these two ordinary people that choose to do something extraordinary. The cinematography, the pacing, the atmosphere, all serve a narrative beautifully well. And you know what this film does kind of have elements of? It really does have elements of films like, Die Hard and Speed, Think of it as Die Hard on a school bus, trying to get out of a dangerous wildfire, and Speed because, well, Speed takes place on a bus. And that's another thing. Matthew McConaughey and America Ferrera's chemistry definitely did kind of feel a lot like Keanu Reeves and Sandra Bullock's. Most of the way, like there's times whenever, like in that film, there's times when Sandra Bullock had to take the wheel of the bus because Keanu Reeves had to handle stuff with Dennis Hopper's character in that film at times. Like, it did kind of reminded me of those films. But it's not like an over-the-top action film. No, it's still a serious tragedy film, but it has some elements of those movies in it. It kind of takes the serious elements of those films. So Kevin arrives, and the students all board the bus, and at first and this is where we start meeting them. And America Ferrera's character doesn't want to accompany them because she's trying to lock up the school and wants to get home to Sherry and Sean, and because they can't drive to evacuate. Right there, that's what Kevin's trying to do, wants to get home to Sherry and Sean, and the reason why he has America Ferrera's character accompanying is because he can't drive the kids on his own, and he's going to need her to guide him there, to kind of guide him with handling the kids and stuff. Like, it's going to be a first 23, but one family does manage to make it out. And they managed to get that one kid in time. The rest of them can't get to their family, so they got to get on the bus. But I don't think we see that 23rd kid again. So hopefully that one made it out okay. I kind of wish at that terminal I don't think we did, but at the same time, I kind of hope they made it out. Like, maybe they should, once they get back and they make it out safely, we should have, seen that family with all the other families waiting. I kind of wish we did see that, to at least confirm that they made it out. Because I don't think we saw them again after that, but hopefully they made it out. But, so it's a 22 now. So, there's pretty much now, they can't really so the traffic and radio issues get worse, and so when Ruby's trying to warn Kevin about some stuff that came up and not to drive to the town they're supposed to go to, he's unable to, and so Kevin can't reach Ruby at all, and Chief Martinez tells PG&E to cut the town's power due to evacuees being still in danger, and Kevin and Mary argue over the best route, because lots of times, there is a lot of traffic of evacuees. So the evacuation gets even more dangerous because roads are blocked off, not just from wildfires, from evacuees trying to get out the same situation as well. And so after the two argue, he pretty much ends up Kevin's pretty much forced to take a lot of dangerous detours throughout the whole film. And this is one of the first he does, because he's left with no radio contact because Ruby has to evacuate as well. And so they get trapped in gridlock, and Kevin has Mary then take the wheel, has to assist with directing traffic, and allows the bus and a fire truck through. And they arrive, though, that their collection point has been deserted. Right there, and there's lots of scenes where you see students scared, and you know, the scenes America Ferrera and Matthew McConaughey have with them are actually good, you know? You like a lot of scenes they had together. Like, there's one where this one student is lying on the ground panicking, right? Like, curled up in a ball, and just, like, you just feel sorry for all of them. And America Ferrera is called up to that one, and can see how scared that student is, and hugs them, and like, and of course, and Kevin also does another one for another scared student, like, pretty much who also finds out has a difficult relationship with his father, much like he has a difficult relationship with his son. And then the bus navigates traffic and falls power lines and armed looters even. Like, they go through all sorts of stuff. They have to escape through blaze on a side road. And things get worse. The children are starting to get a heat stroke and get thirsty because the air conditioning is shut off because they have to... That's another thing. They can't even put on the air conditioning because wildfire smoke could get in the bus. So they have to shut off all the air conditioning, basically. So the situation gets more claustrophobic. And so, seeing like... And America Ferrera's character sees that one of them is about to pass out from heat stroke. And so they have to exit the bus at the worst possible stop. Like... She leaves the bus, has to get a lot of cases of bottled water, and to make the mission harder, there's a propane tank that's about to explode. Right there, and that's to narrowly avoid it, and narrowly avoid some, like, armed looters with guns. And now they don't have, like, any fierce interaction with them, but here you even kind of fear that Mary could probably die. But thankfully she gets the bus back alive. And then we get back to Chico where all the children's parents are, and Ruby speaks to them and expresses that she trusts Kevin to get them there safely, and Chief Martinez ceases firefighting operations to save lives, and makes a public statement about the increasing volume of wildfires, and so even the firefighters can't do anything anymore to stop it, and so they have to pretty much cease all their operations. Like, things get really out of control quick. And the bond between Kevin and his son, we don't really see much screen time of it to really deliver much part of the story, but McConaughey and America's performances do really make their characters very likable, and the chemistry is great with one another, and they worked well together on screen. And throughout the 2-hour movie, there's not a single character that really prays or really much. Like, even when facing a massive disaster, like, the action is so intense, like, immediate, that it kind of does well almost providing PTSD to the viewer at the very end. And despite Greengrass's minimal use of visualized horror and gore, it gets a lot more upsetting on that score, but it's very restrained as well. And the terror comes from Ferrera's performances because they're trying to keep it together for the sake of the kids, and succeeding and sometimes lapsing into quivering silence. And like I said before, all the kids did good in their scenes. All the kids did great. It's like, they're kids you can root for. They're kids you feel bad for. In this whole scenario, like, they're like, these kids just want to get back to their families, and there's times you feel they might not survive because there's several scenarios, like no air conditioning, or just more wildfires to get through, traffic to get through, gotta drive through dangerous routes. They almost pass off from heat stroke. And now those familiar with the story know they obviously will make it out, but there are several scenes where you fear they might not. That was the thing, because this wildfire in the movie is impossible to get out of. Like so many bad scenarios happen after another, just when you think things are going to finally get better. So I like the movie portrayed that, you know? I like it showed how very real. I like it went realistic, and even made several simple missions actually dangerous. Like, there's a time when there's no real quiet behind or using this format. And the best ones for The Lost Bus are one of the times when based off a true story can really work well. And you know it does, because it does a lot of things right. You get two likable actors in the lead roles, portraying the characters who are adapting. It has good pacing. It's respectful to the tragedy. It's respectful to the survivors and victims. And the second half as well is also well paced. And the setup gets established well, and it creates a sense of danger for the audience to worry about, especially with the kids involved. And so, like, the bus then continues in minimal visibility on many other roads, and evacuees, like, trying to have to now go in the opposite direction. And they warn that the train ahead is also burning, and McConaughey's like telling, don't go that way. We gotta go that way. That's all blocked off. We're gonna take the risk even if it's dangerous. You don't want to see, you don't want those kids to see what we saw when we were driving there. And right there, so even these evacuees are giving up though. They actually do warn them about what lies ahead. So they pretty much, though, Matthew decides to try to risk it. But it turns out the reason why the evacuees were right is because there's nowhere else left to drive. Or they can't even escape on foot. So at first they think maybe it'll pass. And so Kevin advises Mary to keep it short on the bus and wait for it to change and light up. And they have to, and because they don't have air conditioning once again, the only way they can breathe is through these makeshift filters and tape the vents shut. And like, first, like, Kevin checks the roads, but it's clear Kevin knows that there's no other road, so they gotta stay on the bus when he comes back. And so pretty much Mary asks the children to try to sleep because she fears they're probably not going to make it. And likely knows if they don't make it, just kind of wants them to try to go out a little peacefully if they don't. And while the kids are sleeping, Mary and Kevin are kind of almost about to kind of give up at this rate. And they're discussing their regrets in life. And this was probably one of the best well-acted scenes of the film. You really buy their emotions in this bit where Mary tearfully wishes she spent more time outside of paradise. And then Kevin regrets his relationship with his son and apparently had a bad relationship with his own dad and believes he failed both relationships. And you buy the heartbreak in McConaughey's performance. He does a well heartbreaking performance in this scene, and you feel bad for him in this bit. And right there, and because like they feel they're probably not going to make it out of this one, so they're confessing the things they regret in life before they kind of go out, maybe. But then the raging fire then closes in, and they try one more time to escape. The bus fails to start, so just after you get a heartbreaking moment, you get a more nail-biting, intense, terrifying moment where Kevin has to run out near the blazing wildfires to make repairs and drive, and has to now, because there's no other way, they gotta go through all the flames to make it out alive. Right there, and there's times like at first it doesn't work, and even America steps down and helps them like in the nick of time before like the wildfires get really bad, and they're able to make it to drive through the fires now. And Paul Greengrass really takes this and turns it into intense and a thrilled experience. What elevates this movie to greater heights, right there. And the movies are like main characters and children trapped in a deadly situation that seems impossible to escape. And they try, as calm as they try to stay and figure out a way to get out of the fires. And you feel the tension throughout the movie because the department is doing their best to put out the fire until they have to give up and stop trying to because the chief tells them not to try to put it out anymore because the situation's gotten so bad and out of control. And also the final scene doesn't have any dialogue. And these two characters embrace and making the scene more powerful and emotional, and I'll get to that part later. And it builds tension with surgical precision, and each scene really escalates the stakes, and it's not forced either. Like the pacing relentless in the best possible way, the suspense feels so well executed that it doesn't leave you room to breathe. Like it's not just a thriller, it's an emotional roller coaster. Right there. So escalating the stakes actually does feel very earned. And the flawless continuity as well. Like every transition is seamless, it flows from one moment to the next, it pulls you in deeper into the chaos. And you actually feel like you're inside the movie and you're on the bus as well. It doesn't feel like you're just watching a film. It actually feels like you're inside the film yourself. And the stunning cinematography, like the camera work really plunges into the action with the realism and fine moments of beauty. And whether capturing the claustrophobia of the smoke-filled bus on the scale of the disaster, the visuals are immersive and unforgettable. And Lost Bus tells its story without preaching. You don't have the agendas, you don't have a heavy-handed message, you just have a simple, powerful human story about courage, instinct, and sacrifice. And it's very pure riveting. So now we get on with the finale of the movie. So, this is such an intense scene. When they get through the fires, like, it really feels like the bus is trying to escape hell. And it's this whole moment where, like, the whole bus is, like, fires all over. Right there, like, fire flames are hitting the bus. The children are screaming terrified. And right there, and it almost seems like it's going to be impossible to escape. But then, of course, thankfully, just when you think all hope is lost, they finally reach the end of the fires. And they finally get out of the smoke, and they are finally free. And they can finally get out. And they're finally on the road again. They've made it out just in the nick of time before the fires could really trap them. And they get to the evacuation point. The children are reunited with their families, and they applaud Kevin and Mary for their bravery and saving their kids. And Ruby and Kevin make amends. And Kevin finds Sherry, and Kevin wants to go see if his family's alright, because he was on his way to help them, but then he got called, and throughout the whole evacuation mission, he probably felt that they probably didn't make it out, but he sees Sherry there, and it turns out Sherry got rescued and is alright. And she tells him, like, when he's looking for his son, and his son went back with his mom, so his son made it out alive. And so our last scene is Kevin going through the wreckage of his destroyed home, and then Linda arrives with Sean, and he embraces his father, and the two then embrace, and this is a nice, well-acted moment where the two obviously make up, and they reconcile in silent mode, though there's some parts of the scene I wish did happen, but I'll get to that later. But the movie's over there, and it's revealed that the fire became the deadliest wildfire in California. PG&E, they were pleaded guilty, and they got fined $13.5 billion for the whole tragedy. And then Kevin stopped being a bus driver and became a teacher in Chico, and Mary continued to teach in Paradise and took regular trips overseas. But that's how The Lost Bus ends. All the kids got back with their families, and Kevin and his son did make up in the end, but, though, because his son still said some shitty things in the beginning, I wish his son apologized for the rude stuff he said. Like, I think one of the things he says in the beginning is that he wishes his dad was dead. Like, he should have apologized for that. I feel his son still should have apologized for being so rude in the beginning of the film. And PG&A got consequences for the wildfire. And Mary still continues her job as usual. So it was a nice way to end the film. Alright, so now we're in bad qualities with The Lost Bus. I'd say for the bad qualities, Kevin's son, though, well, Matthew McConaughey's son plays him, and he doesn't do too bad of a job playing him. His son did annoy me in the beginning of the film, and his argument with Kevin really got on my nerves. And while the reunion at the end is nice, I hated that he doesn't even apologize for his behavior at the start of the film. Especially because that in the beginning are the only times we see him. So I feel he still should have apologized for the bad stuff he said. He still should have apologized. I really wish he apologized for that stuff. While it's nice in reconcile, it kind of annoyed me he didn't even apologize for that. Because I didn't like that scene. That scene did really annoy me. And the story can be a bit formulaic at times. Though, because if you're familiar with the tragedy, they're going to make it out, but it does well and also it's making you feel like they probably won't at times. So other than those, I enjoyed The Lost Bus. And it's another well-done true story film from Paul Greengrass. And Paul Greengrass is the right guy who should be directing true story tragedy films, because he does a good, superb job directing them. And he's very faithful to the tragedies. He pays respect to all the victims. Like he really does well in doing these kind of films. And he's got to direct them more often. Like, this guy should be the one directing films like that. He does superb at it. So in the end, I would say The Lost Bus is worth watching if you're able to. some way or another. Because it is a really good film that I feel should have actually been released to theaters. I wish they did not dump this straight to Apple TV+. This deserved to be seen in theaters. This deserved to be seen by more people. Anyways, that's it for my review of The Lost Bus. If you want to rank The Lost Bus, here's how I'm going to rank this movie. So overall, if you want to see a very respectful film based off one of the deadliest wildfires in California history and another superb true story film from director Paul Greengrass, then I would totally watch The Lost Bus when you're able to, when you get the chance, any one way or another. And if we're not going to rank The Lost Bus, I'm going to give The Lost Bus an 8.5 out of 10. Alright, there we go, guys. That officially wraps up my review for The Lost Bus. Now I want to know in the comments down below what you guys think about The Lost Bus. For those who were able to watch it, I watched this film on the plane. So that's how I was able to watch it. And I decided to review when I got back. And so now I'm back. I'm finally able to review it. But tell me your thoughts on the film below. And until then, that will be it for this review. Thank you all for watching. And if you like this and want to see more, don't forget to subscribe to Don G. Corleone.